Welcome to the first of 2 units in which we look at language linkers. In this unit, we'll look at what you might know as discourse markers, or what I call explicit linkers. Specifically, in this video, I'm going to cover the 3 different types of explicit linker and which punctuation rule each explicit linker has. What are explicit linkers? They are explicit in the sense that they are easily identifiable and that they perform a specific function. Why do we use explicit linkers? For 3 very good reasons. 1, we use linkers to guide the reader. Each linker belongs to a group of linkers which communicates a specific meaning. For example, the linker however is a contrast linker, same as although or whereas. The linker additionally belongs to the group of linkers which talk about extra information, same as furthermore. So we use a linker to communicate a specific message, and through that we can guide the reader's understanding of our writing. It would be difficult to do this without using explicit linkers. 2. Linkers add flow to the text. If all you wrote was a sentence after sentence after sentence after sentence without any linkers to connect the sentences, it becomes difficult to read, almost staccato in approach. One thing, another thing, another thing, another thing, another thing. Linkers connect ideas and sentences together and take the reader on a journey through the text. 3. As a result of using linkers to logically connect sentences, your writing becomes much more spoken in approach. Spoken language, generally, is easy to follow. If your writing can be more spoken, then it becomes easier to read. Behind these 3 ideas is the main underlying concept of connecting elements of your writing together. It is this connection of ideas in a logical way which makes writing easy to read and understand. Okay, that is why the use of linkers is important. Let's have a look at how you use linkers. What I'd like you to do is to read the 2 sets of sentences and use one of the given linkers to connect the sentences together. You'll see what I mean in just a second. Okay, it wasn't too difficult, was it? You might have got something like this. I've left out the punctuation for a reason. We'll cover this in a second. First of all, let's identify the type of explicit linkers we have. There are 3 groups: conjunctions, subordinate conjunctions, and transitions. If we take the 6 linkers from the example questions, we can break them down into these 3 groups. Let's talk conjunctions. There are 7 conjunctions, and if you remember fanboys, you'll remember them all. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Subordinate conjunctions are identified by the sense that when you use them, there is missing information which has to be added to complete the sentence. If you don't complete the test on time, what? Despite the fact you've completed the task, what? Subordinate conjunctions create subordinate clauses which need a main clause, the information which completes the sentence. Transitions you probably know very well, words like therefore, moreover, however, and so on. There are many transitions and they all fall into groups of words which have a particular meaning. We haven't got the time to go into any great detail here about all of the subordinate clauses and transitions and what they are, so to find out more about which linkers belong to which group, please have a look at the links below this video. What's important for this video is to know that each group has its own punctuation rules, and this is what we're going to have a look at now. Okay, we're going to assume that we're going to connect 2 clauses together. In each case, and this is important, Each clause can, if it needs to, act as a sentence by itself. I can't stress this enough. We are looking at this and only this circumstance in this video. We're not looking at lists or any other structures in which there are not two clauses which can act as independent sentences. If we go back to our example sentences, each sentence is made up of two clauses, and each clause can act as a separate sentence. Okay, bearing that in mind, let's have a look at conjunctions. Conjunctions are punctuated in this way. You put the conjunction between the clauses and put a comma before the conjunction. Let's turn to our example sentences which used conjunctions. The conjunction is already in place, so let's add the punctuation now. For subordinate conjunctions, they form a subordinate clause or subclause. So find the end of a subclause and put the comma there before the main clause, or put the main clause before the subclause without punctuation. So there are two possible solutions. Let's bring up the two examples that involved subordinate clauses and have a look at the possible answers. With transitions, either end the sentence before the transition and put a comma after the transition, or put a semicolon before the transition and a comma after. We can have a look at those solutions now. Simple, isn't it? All you have to do is identify the explicit linker and then put in the correct punctuation. Now, I'm sure I've said something that you might disagree with, so one or two things to say. One, remember that we're connecting two clauses together where each clause can act as an independent sentence. If we look at the first example, we can, if we want to, create a list, which then doesn't fall under the rules of this video. 2. Some linkers are also adverbs, and so they can be used as adverbs, not as linkers. So I'm not saying every time you use however punctuate in this way, as however is not always used as a linker. 3. Old rules die hard. I know that some of you would have been taught the old way. English is a language which changes and has changed over time. What you may have been taught when you learnt English may have changed to the rules which I've presented here. However, if you need further convincing, please take a look at the links below the video, which also explain how to use punctuation with linkers and what common errors occur when these rules are not followed. For example, the error which is called a comma splice, which occurs when you punctuate a transition incorrectly. There's a link which describes this particular error below. Okay, at this point I'd encourage you to review the video again, and when you're ready, attempt the questions below.